At this moment, words are hesitant. At this moment, my soul is craving for silence. And yet, I find myself talking in the early hours of the morning. I put on some makeup today. I'm wondering whether you can see this. I used black and white for this shot. I like the effect. Photography is a form of art, and so is filming. And yet, I am sad to see that it has lost its value. You see treasures like Nightmare Alley, produced by people like Guillermo del Toro, one of the greatest artists of what we consider to be modern times. And yet all people want to see is people in tight suits with abs and no soul. What people want to see is females practically naked because there's like all people want to see is like flesh and explosions. And the plot retreats to the background more and more, loses its value. You make me sick. You make me sick. Because once more, humanity is showing that greed and the lust for more just ruins everything. Once you give something to the masses, to the mob, to the mindless, to the ignorant, they start to destroy it. And then we keep shoveling money into the stuff that we want to have, and we forget to look at the stuff that maybe we need to have. Maybe we don't need another blockbuster. Maybe we need something with substance that makes us think. You can basically cram all the wisdom of an Avenger movie into 2 seconds. You don't even have to watch the whole movie. You just have to watch the last 5 seconds and you won't get more out of it. It's just something to pass the time. It's just something to be less bored. I mean, why don't you include a bit more outbursts into your own life? Right? I mean, if you want to have a good laugh, then look at the politicians. Look at Elon Musk maybe, selling us electric cars, and we praise him for one of the smartest people on the planet. Well, if it comes to advertisement for his products, he surely is quite smart. We never look past the outer appearance of things. As long as somebody has a six-pack and a smartly trimmed beard, well, you just send him to Hollywood. I mean, you could take a guy like me and you could send him to Hollywood, and in the end, he would probably look like Robert Downey Jr. Like everything perfect, no hair out of line. It's like, oh, I'm Robert Downey Jr. I never really did one courageous act in my life, but here I am, right, saving the world. Yesterday I watched, well, I can't say I really watched it. Right when I sat down and I watched Nightmare Alley. And yes, I'm really praising this movie because when I watched it, I was like, what the heck? This is one of the best movies I have seen in the last couple of years. Literally. The storyline, the thrill. Right? It's like a well-written book. And it's hard to write a book that's like neat and concise. And I couldn't find anything that I didn't like. The actors were well chosen. Not just because of what people want to see, but actually, actors that would give value to the characters they would display. And I feel like in some movies, people just choose the people. Like, the actors are chosen because they're kind of like, people want to see them right now. Jeez, I have so much shit in my nose, I don't know where that's coming from. Maybe it's really drinking coffee or something. But no, never question. Never ask questions. Never question what you're doing because you're doing it, so it must be good, right? So, yesterday I watched that movie Dune. Fucking hell. I mean, I think what makes me sad is that it's a pretty good story. But I'm really sorry, but this movie was such junk. And that's what they do a lot, like, these days. They praise something. Dune, the movie, coming! And then, the soundtrack is made by... What's his name? The guy that made the soundtrack for Inception. And now he's like praised, and everybody says, oh, he's so brilliant. Instead of giving all these interviews and praising your work and having your butt kissed, maybe you should just continue making great music and stop doing these interviews, because that just ruins any form of art. That's just what I think. You just should continue doing what you're doing, because as soon as you allow this outside madness to attract you and thrust this glimpse of bullshit upon you, which they call, sunshine or the spotlight, right? I mean, some people rather work from the background. Because as soon as you stand in the spotlight, suddenly you start having shorter hair. Like, don't take me for an example. Alright, some actors started off as the person they actually were, and then suddenly they change. And then you realize maybe you should have just stopped with that first movie, right? I mean, after Harry Potter, why did they have to continue acting? Couldn't they just do something else? But it's just what humanity does, and humans in general. You do something one time and it works, and you try reproducing it. And that's why Hollywood keeps using the same kind of actors. Because as soon as one actor is somehow famous, right, and people liked to see him in a movie, suddenly he gets more and more attention because people want to see him, and then they're bored of him, and then nobody wants to see him anymore. And that's why I would say it should be in the responsibility of the actor to choose the production he acts in very wisely. Like, you can't take everything, just because the masses want you, well, they just as easily let you slip. Because they don't give a shit about you. And you're just going to sell yourself. And in the end, they're going to maybe cut off your beard, shorten your hair, because it fits the role, right? But, that's why I like theater. Because for theater, people are more or less who they are. And they don't take what they're doing so seriously. I like theater for that reason, and if you watch these old movies, you can still see that people were acting because they actually liked it. They actually liked it, and it wasn't about the money. It was just about, making something nice together. And in some movies you can still sense that. And I feel like if you watch these Avenger movies, there's not much room for individuality. It's just a bunch of six-pack people, and they just have to perform. Through a number of productions. And that doesn't give much room for... sure, the money that comes is like a constant, and that's what they seem to be concerned about. Hearing stories about people like, Scarlett Johansson, which was pissed because she didn't get paid enough. Oh, I didn't get the money that I wanted. Yeah, well, I'm sure you should have enough money by now, right? How many millions can you hoard at home? And that's what I don't get. We always look at these people like they're some kind of saint or like some kind of holy person, because in that movie, he played the Revenant. He never did that. You get that? He never actually fucking did that. Never. But he gets praised for it. Oh, have you seen him? Yeah, well, have you also realized that there's like a whole camera team? Do you think he would have ever done that if there wouldn't be a camera on him? No. It's much easier to do things if you have the feeling somebody's gonna see it. Oh yeah, it's much easier. I've just proven that to myself when I went halfway to Amsterdam by bicycle. And just knowing that I was filming it gave me the feeling I wasn't alone. And that's the thing, as soon as you know somebody's filming you, it's not necessarily, but you tend to act different. You try to be more funny, so you'll be more outgoing. You'll be giving yourself away. Of course, I don't do these things if there's not a camera involved. I can do it right now, because there's a camera. That's also a reason for me to get up, for sure. And that helps me. It helps me to talk to the camera about these things that I have inside of me. But there's also a reason why I do this, like why at 4:45 I get up after just having uploaded a bunch of videos to YouTube until like almost 1 o'clock. And at the same time I was watching Dune. I didn't really enjoy the movie enough, especially with that like evil guy, the chubby one. The actor is the worst actor I've ever seen, and yet you keep seeing him in all kinds of movies. Emotionally, that guy's dead. It's just like... there's no expertise in his acting, if that's a word. He's just... who am I to judge, right? But that's just, if you put yourself on public display, you will get opinions like this. You will get opinionated. And that's just how it is. And some people, they just don't seem to improve. And then you see, for example, people like Johnny Depp. You know, he did the Pirates of the Caribbean. It was genius. But you somehow have the feeling, you know, because it was quite successful, right? That he kind of got stuck in that role. Because then afterwards, what did he do? Like Lone Ranger and stuff? And somehow this kind of drunkenness, you feel like he kept that. Because maybe he liked it. And maybe he started identifying himself with that kind of success. So you think, oh, because it worked there, you know, maybe I'll just keep it. And that's what people do in general with their personalities. You have something that worked once. So maybe you once made a sexual joke and people actually laughed about it. And then you keep doing this because you're trying to get laughs out of people. And you may continue to do so even at the age of 50 or 60. Just because, you know, you once got a laugh out of it and you don't realize it's not funny anymore. Like you're not 20 anymore. Now it's just pathetic and sad, but you just keep doing that. So I hope I'm not gonna do the same shit I'm doing now in 20 years. I really hope, you know, YouTube, for me, should be like a phase, right? So I'm doing it now, while I'm like all smooth skin and like luscious beard and 70 kilos or something. But I'm sure in 30 years I don't want to be doing that anymore. I mean, right now it serves a purpose. I think I might continue with my podcast. Because where else is that voice gonna go? But you don't know. I mean, you have to adapt also to change on the outside. And I want to change on the outside. And the other thing is, it's not like I feel like I have to do these things. Well, in a way now I have to do them. But it's not like if I don't do them, I'll feel miserable. So if there comes a time where I don't have to do them anymore, I will say, thank God, man, you know, it's over. I can do something else now. But some people, they just want to keep doing the same shit over and over again because one time, you know, it made them feel good. And that's why for me, I can basically do more or less, whatever I want. Because I can find something positive in most things. Not in all of them. I mean, okay, I could say in that movie Dune, what was good about it? Well, for example, the soundtrack. I think what ruined it for me was that it was praised too much. I'm sorry, but just because somebody once landed a score with a soundtrack, you know, now people think, oh, if I just book that guy, this movie is gonna be a hit. Because people say, oh, it's this guy's soundtrack. You know, why don't we try other people? Why do we always have to see the same dead-end actors? Why don't we just try new things? And that's the problem. As soon as one person gets discovered, Hollywood just sucks them up. But not because, you know, it's Hollywood, and not because Hollywood does that. Because the people allow it to happen. You can literally see this, like some new actor that suddenly is successful. You know, they were waiting for this all their life. Because they thought, oh, if I only get into Hollywood, you know, it's gonna be miraculous. Well, it's a pile of shit, that's what it is. It's just a bunch of liars slapping each other in the face on stage. I don't care the reason. You know, for all I know, like, Will Smith should have just left. I mean, why am I talking about this? Because I find it necessary. Like, if you're still in Hollywood after this, why don't you fucking leave? Right? Why don't you have the balls, instead of going on stage like a little sissy, slapping someone in the face? I mean, the most decent thing you could have done after that is just flip them the finger and say, no, I'm fucking out of here. If this is how I'm treated here, I don't want a part in this. But people don't do that because they are craving for the attention, right? Who's gonna watch my movies if I act like this? It's ridiculous and it's pathetic. And I don't understand why we put so much praise onto people that we've never even met. Like, I don't know who that guy is. I don't know who Will Smith is. I don't know any of these people. I don't know who Chris Pratt is. Right? I don't know them. I don't know Tom Cruise. They could be anyone because they're actors. They are paid to lie. And that's what's the difference. If you go to a theater, the guy performing on stage actually knows that it's a role. I don't think they really truly lose themselves because it's also, it's not supposed to look real. It's just a stage play. But then you turn to Hollywood and everything's supposed to look real. And then you watch it in the end and it looks real and you think, well, that guy is really awesome to do all these things. But he never really did them. He had people tell him, you have to run there and you have to run there. That's a different thing than, just doing it on your own accord. And that's why I have big respect for Sylvester Stallone for directing movies. Because it actually shows he's not just, a musclehead. He actually has some brains. And the same for Arnold Schwarzenegger. They were quite smart. I mean, sure, they probably did. And, they worked hard. And it got them somewhere. But they also knew what to do with it. They didn't keep doing the same kind of stuff. No, they did other things. But some people, they just get stuck. They just get stuck. And that's when you get too comfortable. And I'm too comfortable. Like, why did I drink that coffee this morning? I wake up, the first thing in my mind is, I drink coffee. You know what I know? I know I could have just gotten out of bed, dressed in my running gear, which is just short trousers actually, and then I could have gone for a run. You know what I do instead? I imagine myself sitting in this comfortable room, drinking a coffee while having already heartburn. I mean, think about that. That's how stupid I am. And then I put on some makeup. And I wear this thing, right, where I feel like, I'm the Barbarian Lunatic. Talking about stuck. And I'm thinking about dyeing my hair. I mean, why don't you just go for a bloody run? Oh, because I don't want to attract dark energies when I'm running barefoot outside. And I also don't want to run with shoes. And the park. Right? The park isn't, where I want to run. I would much rather run in the forest. Well, there is no forest. There's just a park. So why don't you just go and fucking run in the park? Well, I don't like to run where there's people. There's too many people with dogs and then they see me. And then I feel like an attraction. Which is absolutely true. It's absolutely true. I don't like running there. So what to do about it? I mean, I could have gone running now, at 5 a.m, when there's basically nobody. But the thing is also, I mean, where do you run? I have several options, right? I mean, just to talk about it, because maybe that just gives me some information. Actually, don't know if that's even still recording.